All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel for another edition of You Asked, and I am going to answer today. It's all about focal lengths. How do you choose the lens? What do you think about? What are the common go-tos, the pros, the cons, all of that kind of stuff we're going to answer in today's question. But before we do, let me remind you, Wandering DP Patreon, it's the only way that I am able to do any of these videos, and it's the best way to support the channel. You can find a huge backlog of content, of videos, breakdowns, things to try and make you a better cinematographer. Basically, I think of what would have made me a better cinematographer? What information do I have access to now that I would have liked to when I was starting out or when I was coming up or yesterday that I didn't have now? I take on-the-job experience and I go, how can I pass this on in a very digestible, sometimes rather long piece of content? I release it there. Each and every week, there's a new piece of content in either a video or a podcast or something to try and make you a better cinematographer. You get instant access to all of that when you sign up, okay? Please, if you want to support the channel, that's the best spot to do it. Okay, let's get into today's question. This one comes from NitRam4242. This is some good stuff. If you don't mind, can you talk about your lens and focal length choices, like your rationale for picking the focal lengths for different shot types? I will say that the vast majority of the time, the focal lengths with the people that I work with, the focal lengths, you just sort of stumble into them. It's not like, oh, I'm going to think about shooting an 18 and then a 100. I work in the commercial space, which means most of this stuff is boarded, and we are using Artemis on either the location sound or the tech scout to get these things boarded, to get them checked off. So it's a little bit more regimented from the start, but still you can input these ideas very early on in the process, which means you have to know about lenses and focal lengths and how they affect different things in the image before you actually get there on the day. It's much less on the day. It's much more beforehand and having that knowledge in your head so you can see out into the future and see what those focal lengths will actually do. Rationale for me, I like, this is going to sound incredibly lazy. I like Roger Deakins stuff. Roger Deakins had a very specific style, especially on 35 millimeter film and then a 35 millimeter sensor. As opposed to full frame, where he does, like low 20s for wider stuff, and then all the way up to like 35, and anywhere in between there for conversations, for over the shoulder, for office scenarios, for bar scenarios, those kind of stuff. I don't really like the long lens stuff. Why? Because I wanted to emulate that stuff when I was starting out, and I just gravitated towards those lenses on something like the, like a 35 millimeter sensor. 25, 27, 29, 32, 35, that sort of range, 40. I used to love 40s on a 35 millimeter sensor. So I'm immediately gravitating towards that stuff because I don't like the long lens compression. I mean, there are times where if I need to go long lens, if I'm thinking long lens, the downside for me is that for close-ups or singles, is that you have to be quite far away from the people. And I don't really like the feel of that distance from the people. The good side of using longer lenses, which if you're low on budget, longer lenses makes it slightly easier if you want to up the level of quality or perceived quality, because you are narrowing what you see inside of a set. So that makes it way easier. The problem is, especially if you're doing singles or something, is that the fall off will be so great from those long lenses that you end up losing some easy depth cues that I'm normally gunning for in like a salt and pepper lighting. If you're using like a 75 for a single, you can drop off the background so quickly that it ends up just looking really, really flat. Whereas if you go on those slightly wider lenses that I will gravitate towards, then you're still able to maintain those. And that's why it feels not only the distance to the talent that you're actually shooting, but like how it works in the background as well. You're able to slash in a little bit more. Wider the lenses, though, the more area that you have to work for in terms of lighting, which means generally you need the resources to control those things. If you are into control, you're going to need resources to control those things. So really, it's a question of budget, of time, location. All of those things factor into you just came to me with an idea, I would immediately in my head be gravitating towards those mid-range lenses, not too long, not too wide. On the full frame sensors nowadays, that's probably, like 50 through to 75 in that range would be, I just land there. Like I'm never immediately leaning into things super wide. But one of the fun parts about commercials is that you'll get directors that want to do everything on the 18 millimeter or shoot something crazy on a 14. But for me, a lot of those decisions are made well in advance and usually stipulated If it's not by me, by the director saying, oh, I want this specific look or this specific style. It's got to look like Wes Anderson or this or that. So I have less input into the focal length than you would think. And even on commercials, or even on, actually, I did a short film not too long ago, which is weird for me. I don't really do short films, where every time that you're setting up a shot, like you're just checking with the director. Like, what do you think? Do you like this shot? And they might say, oh, it feels a little bit too far away, or it feels a little bit too distant, or there's too much in the background. And then you're ultimately changing things. But I'm offering up, first perspective is like, if I offer something up, this is what I think is best. And I would be saying normally, I would be leaning away from longer lenses because the kind of images that I have in my head for references don't have that. So it's just my own personal style that I would shy away from really long lenses and really wide lenses. And I would just play in that normal ballpark, what is normal to me. But I know there's lots of people that really love super long lenses and compressing the space. And if you're shooting 3 cameras, my mode doesn't really work, right? You don't have the space for it. And you can't get close enough without being in somebody else's shot. So it's determined by a whole host of constraints. But I definitely don't sit around and think like, oh, this is going to look really good on a 35 versus a 40. It's like, no. My brain just doesn't work that way. I would get there and say, we're going to be in my normal range here. What would feel good? Let's try the 40. And then you put on the 40 and you're like, oh, we don't really see that little practical in the background. And we can't move back anymore because that would affect the shot for some reason. Try something else. It's like you get, on a normal working set, like you get 2 or 3 changes. Like 3 changes is a lot of lens changes. But you get a couple changes. For time and speed, you're not going to have to go in and exactly nail it every time. Where we used to have, I used to use like director's viewfinders all the time. Those are getting less and less, especially with Artemis. It's pretty easy just to lens up before you get there, flick through 5 different ones. You go like, that one's the best. And I'm usually saying that one is the best for overall balance in the frame. It's like balance in the location, balance with where I can get depth cues in the background. And I'm trying to shy away from really long lenses because, in my mind, it sort of flattens everything off. And I'm trying to avoid flat, especially if I have the resources to control. If I don't have the resources to control, okay. Like sometimes that's a solution. Like, let's go flatter. That way we don't have to worry about it. But 9 times out of 10, if I get to choose, I'm going to go, ooh, and we have the resources. Like, there's more canvas to play with, which then I can impose more ordering versus narrowing it. So focal length, does it matter? Not really. I mean, you got to get used to it, play around. There's not too many ways that you can get the experience of knowing what's going to look halfway decent, but you develop your own style. You see, what are the shots that I like and the sequences that I like, and what focal lengths are they? And you get really good at being able to identify what is going to work and what is not going to work just by being around it for so long. There's no like shortcut to doing it, and there's no benefit. I wouldn't say there's a benefit to like getting really good at identifying lenses, like when you're watching someone else or when you're watching work that you like. I don't think it's really beneficial to go like, oh, that's a 75, or like, I know that's 100 mil. It's like, it doesn't actually matter if you know that stuff. It's way better spending your time figuring out how to make nice images apart from focal lengths and lenses, because that's going to move the needle a lot more. Okay. That's just me. I might be crazy. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Many thanks. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.